Time for Canada to sound off. We are talking about that report from Sick Kids, of course, and also, well, whether you're going to send kids back to school. Mel, right away, you're a mom, and there's daycare and preschool and things like that. Would you be looking ahead to September and sending your son back to school?
Yeah, so I can tell you this. My son's going to junior kindergarten next year. We already had the virtual orientation, but we did. A big piece of the discussion is what safety measures are going to be put in place. And, and one of the answers they said was, we don't know yet, because a lot could change in the next few months. So the report that you were talking about with Sick Kids, they put together some recommendations. It's not going to be the Bible in that they have to abide by all of this, but it's saying things that could work and they think should work. And they consulted with infectious disease experts, those who deal with mental health, special needs, and so there's a lot to discuss here. Yeah, there is. And let's get to emails first. Let's start with an email from Angela. And Angela says, I am not okay with the Sick Kids report. First, they recommend that parents screen their kids. They already often send kids to school sick, and many people do not care about COVID. Leaving this screening measure up to the parents leaves everyone at risk. Second, social distancing is impossible in schools. This report also makes everything sound like a suggestion, which means many school boards would avoid most of it to save money. This report seems to have a hidden agenda, and I do not trust it at all. There needs to be strict safety measures in place, not suggestions, and that is missing in every area of this report. Read between the lines and be critical. I usually would trust Sick Kids, but this report I do not trust at all. While kids may not get sick as often, staff might. Further, kids will take it home to their families. I have a senior in my home. So a lot of great thoughts and a lot of great points there from Angela as well, Mel. So many. And as a parent, think about this. It's 7 in the morning, okay? Your child has a mild fever. You've got an important meeting you got to go to. The onus is now on you, right? You got to do the temperature check. Oh, you have mild symptom. Well, now X, Y, Z, it's domino effect. Are you going to send your kid to school? Or are you going to stay at home? And so that really does put the onus on the parent. And that's a tough one. It's a tough call because people got to make the money, too, and get to work. So I totally get where she's coming from on all of this. And I should preface that report, by the way. Sick Kids gives it to the Ministry of Education, at least for Ontario. And then Ministry of Education will do with it as it will. So it can still be massaged, very much a living document. Right. Okay. Very good. Another email here. This is from Kim. Kim says, good morning, Breakfast Television. Yes, I will be sending my son back to school in September. Am I nervous? Yes, of course. But I agree with Sick Kids as 100%. It's so important to send them back for their mental health. Realistically, every day is a risk until we find a vaccine, but mental health is so important. So let's take a deep breath and start our new school year on a positive note. Enjoy the rest of the day. That's Kim from Mississauga. I think that's so important, Dee. Like, think about just your mental health, okay? You're not a student right now. How are you doing during these few months? Just playing devil's advocate here. And I can tell you that, my mental health is not at where it should be, and no one's is. And as a young child, obviously, you're affected. So I know you do have to weigh out the options when it looks at the pandemic, the virus itself, and all the other impacts that will be had on your kids. So it's an interesting point there, definitely. All right. Yeah, you're very right about that, Mel. Do we have a phone call right now, I believe? Good morning.
Good morning, Devo and Mel.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're doing very well, thank you. So what are your thoughts on today's question?
I think it's great for the kids to go back to school because of their mental health, but I really don't think we know what it's going to look like until we get to that point. But my other concern is I'm a school bus driver, and they're not really telling us how we're going to be able to do our job. We can't have 6 meters distance in our bus, right? When the kids are walking on, to get them on the bus safely, to get them off the bus safely, to do our job that we have been trained to do, it's difficult to be able to do those things when you have to keep 6 meters. So how are we going to keep us as drivers safe as well as those kids?
And I think, and I think, Megan, you're right, because people forget about all the other aspects that go into this. It's not just getting the kids into a classroom or into that school, right, into that building. It's how do they get there?
And I live in rural Ontario, right? So you've got hundreds of kilometers that you're traveling. There's also multiple places in town that you stop at, and you're getting more than just the 1 or 2 kids that live at that address. You're getting the neighborhood kids as well. Oh, wow, so, Megan, that's really great point. And to be honest, and how are you going to physically distance kids on a bus? That's an interesting one. And not even including special needs kids. You have monitors. You have kids with disabilities or difficulties, and you have to figure out how to explain it to them and keep them from you know, doing what they don't know that they're not supposed to do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, it's so true.
And you have monitors on the bus, right?
Yeah.
So how do you social distance them?
Well, what is it? Is it like 42? Is that the number that you can put on a bus?
You can have 72 on a bus.
72.
Ooh.
Wow. So think about that. And we could think back as a kid as well, being on a bus. You didn't follow the rules. You didn't listen to the bus driver half the time. You know it. You still see it all the time, I'm sure, when the school was on, of course. So how do you get the kids to actually listen, even if you do half of that capacity or a third of that amount on a bus? How do you get them to stay away from each other, right?
Exactly. Like it's bigger than just a school. It's the school bus drivers. It's the monitors on the bus trying to keep everybody safe and trying to get their kids to and from school.
Kids, if Megan is your bus driver, please listen to her. She sounds wonderful.
No horseplay in the back, all right? No horseplay. Megan, thank you so much, and it's a great point that you bring up for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks,
Thank you, you too.
All right, Mel, we have another email here. This one's coming from Lori. Lori says, my questions and concern have and still lay with the fact that we're being told that kids are less vulnerable and not as susceptible to getting COVID-19. Should we not be considering the numbers are so low thanks to our government acting so quickly to shut down all schools? Children have all been in lockdown since the third week in March. They've been at home and protected since then. So how can they be confident that children are at a much lower risk? I think that they should definitely be looking at the fact when they are providing their statistics at what they're based on. I'm understandably extremely concerned, as many parents and educators are. Only time will tell us what measures will be put in place to keep everyone safe. As a viewer already stated, they're going to have to be realistic about it and provide proof to build confidence that the children and educators will all be kept healthy and safe. Thank you, Lori, for that email, Mel.
Yeah, very insightful here. And just stats alone, at least from the report here, kids 0 to 19 account for 7% of COVID-19 reported cases in Canada. But they also said within that report that a lot of the kids that are presenting symptoms aren't presenting symptoms. They are asymptomatic or are very mild, right? So maybe a headache, mild fever that someone would pass off as something else. But we have to take into consideration not just the kids, but all of the staff, which a lot of our viewers have been saying and chiming in on, because it's the health of the community of the school. So it's the bus drivers, it's the crosswalks, it's the teachers, it's the lunchroom assistants, everyone involved. So, and I think what's really important is that this is a starting point. These are recommendations. It's going to be what happens next. And I know a lot of provinces have already went back to sort of a rejigged school year. So hopefully things are going well there. And that's going to be interesting to see how that's working out and how we play into September, right?
And I think that's what we learned from as well. And I think, you know, some mistakes were made in Quebec. We heard some schools where pretty much everybody was infected at that point, and the entire classrooms at a time. So we don't want to repeat that. So definitely, as you said, these are things that are putting out there. It starts the conversation like this one, and hopefully we can continue to build on that as well. Mel, thank you so much.